I do things that other people don't do.
All right, so what I'm going to do, Van and Maria and Mark, is after this call is over, I will upload this video to YouTube unlisted, so only we will have it, okay? And I think that'll be useful. So we're talking about 1290 Walkley. No, Walkley?
Yep, that's it.
Okay, Walkley Road. And what is the highest and best use for 1290 Walkley Road? A couple things that I wanted to say, first of all, and we just started recording, so I'll repeat one thing I said, which is most of the creativity in terms of highest and best use, return on investment, and cap rate is going to come from this group, not anybody else outside of this group, not from your architect or architectural technologist, not from your contractor. It's mostly going to come from us. All right, so that's number one. Number two, one of the recommendations I make to everybody who's going to become a developer, and Denise and Stuart are already developers. I don't know about Mark and Van and Maria, but one of the other recommendations I make is that development is similar in some ways to politics. It's the art of the possible instead of the art of the maximum. So I'm not sure, Van, you want to develop this property to the absolute maximum conceivable. I think, at least in my experience, because I've done lots of development work, you want to do something that's optimal. So something that's feasible, something that's feasible financially, feasible from the point of view of getting planning approval. You want to do something that's optimal as opposed to maximal. All right, so we're not trying to maximize development, we're trying to optimize it. All right, we want to know what the building envelope is, so that PDF that you sent, Van, is very useful, but the actual direction that you might head in is optimization as opposed to maximization. All right, I used to say, and I think Mark, you might have heard me and Denise Stuart in the Fix It course say I used to think there were three ways to get poor. Right, one is to get divorced. Two is to buy a horse ranch, and three is to buy an NHL team. But more recently, I've added a fourth way to get poor, and that is to become a land developer. Right? So I'm just warning you guys up front, and you already know this, all five of you already know this, that land development is a very, very time-consuming and difficult process, not just in Ottawa, but Toronto, Vancouver, Portland, Seattle, Phoenix, everywhere probably except Houston, because Houston doesn't have any zoning bylaws. You can pretty much build what you want. But almost every other city I've ever worked in or coaching clients of mine have worked in is very difficult. So you have to be prepared for a 1 year, maybe even a 2 year struggle to get your site plan approved.
Yeah, as you know, Van also built 1710 baseline. So if you were to even look at that, it's funny, we were working on our first project and Van was working on his first project, and his got done in a few months, and it took ours more than 2 years.
I really hate that.
We're just now building.
I really hate hearing stories that he got it done in how long did the site plan take on 1710?
It's a semi with basement unit. Oh, sorry. It was a semi with basement unit, so there was no site plan required.
Okay, well,
it was as big as you could go without a site plan.
Good to know. But this project is going to require site plan approval.
Oh, yes, it is. Yeah, we know that.
So it's going to cost more than you think, and it's going to take longer than you think. And now that's the bad news. The good news is that this process is so difficult to do that when you get your project through the process and built, the value of that project is going to be higher than you think. The rents are going to be better than you think. The value and the appraisals are going to be better than you think. So if we had Minto or Urbandale or Colonnade Bridgeport or any of the big developers on this call, they would tell you that the zoning regulations, the official plan and site plan and all these difficulties that we know exist is their very best friend. Okay, everybody understand that?
Yeah, it keeps everybody else out of the market.
Keeps everybody else, because I can tell you, Mark, if you were doing your first site plan, you know, a lot of people will find that process extremely difficult, very frustrating. Like I said, costs more and takes longer than you ever expected, and they give up halfway through. They do. They just say, to heck with this, and they say to the city, well, I'm just going to sell the site. So that's what they do. But if you can manage to keep your temper and be patient and get through the process. The value of our projects. I mean, if you look at Canadian real estate, it's ridiculously expensive. I mean, I think Vancouver's and Toronto are like among the top 5 or 6 most expensive markets in the world. For a country like Canada that hasn't pretty much an infinite amount of land, it's ridiculous, but that's the way it is. And we have, I'm not a political guy, you guys, but I think I'll send you a video by Pierre Poilievre. Do you know who he is?
Yes.
And I'm not a political guy, so this is not political anything, but I'll send you the video that he did where he says out of 37 developed nations, Canada ranks 36th in terms of being developer friendly. I don't know who ranks below us. I can't imagine anybody, but it's his presentation. It's about an 18-minute video. You should watch it. And again, I don't belong to any political party. Okay, this has nothing to do with politics, and I'm certainly not a Trump supporter. But one thing Mr. Trump said when he was running for president is he came into one of his his shows. Really, he put on shows, and he had a pile of documents that might have been 2 or 3 feet thick. And he said these were the studies required to do like 18-mile repaving of a freeway. You know, it took 10 years to get the approval just to repave the damn thing. It was ridiculous. So whether you're in the United States or Canada, it has become stupidly difficult. The good news is for developers who are sophisticated, like I think all of you guys, if you get through the process, that's great. Okay?
Yep.
I think we're patient.
Yeah, you have to
learn that over time.
And you have to have an infinite amount of money. No problem there, right, Denise?
Yeah, right.
Okay, so I got a couple of things I wanted to show you, and some of them you've already seen, but I think it's worthwhile. And we're going to talk about highest and best use now for your project, all right? So I'm going to share my screen with you guys, and I'll start with this. So this is a little project. Denise, have you seen this one before?
Not that one, I don't think so.
Okay, so so this is owned by a client of mine in Gatineau, Quebec. All right, and he bought this some time ago. I don't remember exactly when, and we animated it by putting in a couple of commercial uses on the ground floor. And I'm not saying you should do this with your project, but I just wanted to. You know, part of my job, Marc, as you saw in the course that you took with me, part of my job is just to open some windows and some doors and see if you find anything that's interesting. So Van, I'm not telling you and Maria and the group here what to do. I just want to show you some alternatives, if that's okay. All right. So he owned this property and he said, what do I do with the ground floor? And we talked about it. And he put in spaces very small, for a restaurant. It's a cafe. It's called the Edgar Café, and then another space over here for somebody. It turned out to be a hairdresser, and then he has some apartments upstairs. All right. Now this little cafe here is a phenomenon. All right. So he put in a patio here, and it's not 800 square feet. I think it's 600 square feet. So it's very, very, very small. And this cafe it's only open Tuesday to Saturday, and it's only open for breakfast and lunch. And the woman who operates it is on a lease that pays about $1,500 a month in base rent. Denise and Stuart, you know how commercial leases run, right? So commercial leases, Van and Maria and Marc, are different from residential. There's a base rent, and then in addition to the base rent, sometimes called a minimum rent, the commercial tenant pays operating costs, property taxes, and their own utilities, right? So it's called a triple net rent. But one of the things that we did with the Edgar Café was we also added a percentage rent, okay? So do you know how that works? I'm sure you do, Denise and Stuart, right? So what we did was I did the lease for them, and the young lady who rented the space, I asked her how much, what volume she would do in her first year. She said about $350,000 in total sales, and we put in a 4% percentage rent. So she pays that 15 days in arrears at the end of each month. So she pays $1,500 a month for 600 square feet. Maybe it's 800, but it's in that range. plus her operating costs, utilities, and property taxes, maybe I said that already, plus 4% percentage rent. But she is so successful, her first year, her sales were $650,000. So, Mark, have you got a calculator there?
Always.
All right, so what's 4% of 650?
$25,600.
Yeah, 26,000.
And divide that by 12 for the monthly.
2,166.
How much was it?
2,166.
Yeah, it was over $2,000 of additional rent.
Yeah.
You know, so from this little space, think about this: the landlord gets $1,500 plus, and he gets another $2,000 a month in percentage rent. It's been fantastic. So I just wanted to show you that there are other possibilities for the ground floor of your building, because I think when I looked at the AM10 zoning, which I think I have here somewhere, maybe it's here. Yeah, the AM10. I mean, this is it here, right?
Yep, that's it.
And look at all the uses you get: studio, bank.
We could put it in an amusement park.
Amusement park, daycare, drive-through, gas bar, hotel, parking garage. What do we got here? Restaurant is allowed, so you would be allowed a cafe, retail food store. There's so many commercial uses. I just wanted to make sure that you think, when you're thinking about this design, and I think after this call, I'm hoping that you'll just do some sketching amongst the group and then send it back to me, that you would consider this. Now, there's one other thing I wanted to say to you guys, and I think I mentioned it during the Fix-It course, but I'm not positive about that. And that is, the other thing that we do in Ontario now is we're renting these commercial spaces with something called accessory residential. So for example, Susie here, she rents this small commercial space, again, about 600 or 800 square feet, so not very big, with an apartment. So she's got one of the 3 apartments on the 2nd floor here. And in Ontario, Van and Maria, and I think, Mark, you may not know this, or you may, in Ontario, if you rent commercial space with accessory residential use, it is not covered by the Residential Tenancy Act. Right? Stuart, you're familiar with that?
I had forgotten that.
Yeah, don't. And I'll just stop sharing my screen for a minute. So that's really important. So it is a huge profit driver. You know, my wife and I, we own a number of apartments, and we are doing much more of this, where we have a workshop, an artisan space, a retail space, whatever, and an accessory residential unit. Because the RTA in Ontario, the Residential Tenancy Act, is a huge killer of profitability. In the last 2.5 years, Ontario residential landlords have been allowed to increase their rents over 2.5 years by 1.2%. Now, Maria, here's a skill testing question for you. Do you know anything that has increased just 1.2% in the last 2.5 years? I don't.
I mean, besides rent?
I mean, besides rent, no. I mean, our utilities that we pay, our property taxes that we pay, our insurance that we pay. I mean, golly, everything that we pay has probably gone up in the last 2.5 years, 12%, 15%. So you can imagine landlord profitability in Ontario is really dropping. There's no question about that. So having apartments that are exempt from the RTA is a huge profit driver. And I think I mentioned to you, Denise and Stuart, I have a legal opinion on this from Steve Sheppard. So if you ever get into any trouble, reach back to me. I got that in writing. So what it means, Van and Maria and Mark, is that if you had, if you had a bit of commercial space or artisan space or workshop space, and you rented an apartment with it as accessory to that, and your costs go up 12%, your utilities go up 12%, you can just friggin' charge that. And if they don't pay their rent, you can distrain, and 15 days after you distrain, they're out. You don't have to wait months and months and months to get rid of a bad tenant. It's a huge profit driver. The other thing that I was thinking that you might consider, and again, you don't have to do a damn thing that I say, but I'm just here as a friend to Denise and Stuart and Mark, is you might consider some Airbnb units as well, if possible. And the Airbnb units are covered by the Innkeepers Act. And in order to reduce the amount of work involved in Airbnb, because my wife and I, we operate some Airbnbs, and there's a hell of a lot of work involved in that. What we are doing is we are actually advertising on short-term rental platforms like Airbnb, but we're advertising for extended stays. So we're not really interested in somebody who wants to come for a couple of days. And there's a huge market today for extended stays that are 1 to 3 months. And again, as long as I think you're under three months or less, or just under 3 months, you're not covered by the RTA. So again, you know, it's a huge profit driver. And there was an article today on the Wall Street Journal, which I'm not going to go through because you can read it on your own, but I'll share my screen with you one more time. Extended stay hotels, a reliable investment that's growing in popularity. Extended stay hotels are surefire. They're cheaper to operate. They can weather a pandemic. I mean, it just goes on and on and on. And obviously it shows an apartment suite hotel, but even for the Airbnbs that my wife and I rent, we're more interested in the 2 week, 1 month, 3 month stay than we are in the 1 or 2 or 3 days. All right. So you might consider that. And the rates are fantastic. So in terms of driving your cap rate up, maybe that's something you would consider. And don't forget, your property, your AM property is covered under hotel.
Yep.
So I'm not saying you should do this, but if you wanted to put an Airbnb at grade, all right, if you put your plan for your site plan and they say, well, no, you can't have, yes, you can. You can have a hotel. I mean, it could be a little hotel. You can put an Airbnb unit at grade, and I've got a few of those.
Does it have to be at grade, Bruce?
No, it can certainly be on the 2nd or 3rd or 4th floor. The other thing I was going to suggest is that in terms of, let's see if I've got something here that can help with this. Yeah, I think this would be useful to show you guys. So this is something, I'll just make it a little bigger. This is something that we've been building in Ottawa with P Squared. Denise, Stuart, do you know P Squared?
I've heard you mention them.
Yeah.
It rings a
And
bell.
actually, Van and us were, I forget where we were. I think we were in our architect's office at one point, and then we walked down because I was telling him about this thing where the staircase is outside, basically.
Yeah.
Protected, but outside.
Exactly. And so Van and Maria and Marc, I think I may have shown this, but in the Fix It course, but maybe not. So this is something that P Squared, Patrick Rutherford and Patrick England, 2 architectural technologists who are really good, have been doing. And that is, this is the only apartment building, Van, I've ever seen. It blew my mind, with no internal corridors. Think about how expensive it is to have internal corridors, to have elevators and internal corridors. You got to maintain the elevator and license it. You've got corridors, you got to light and heat them and cool them and clean them and paint them and maintain them. So what these guys did, and I think this might work actually on your project, this is an external staircase here with louvers, and it's considered an external staircase by the city of Ottawa, so it can go right to the curb, and it makes your building bigger without having to buy more land, because you can go into the setback. Because I saw your work that you had done, Van, where you have, like, I think a 5-meter front yard. It's unbelievable that they're taking 16 feet of your property. And so
yeah. That's from I didn't send it to you, Bruce, but we had Foten look at our property and give us a
bet you
report.
that cost you a lot of money.
No, it wasn't too bad, a couple $1,000s.
Oh, Foten, you can't usually call Foten for less than $5,000.
Yeah, no, I was happy with the price. Just wasn't happy when they told me that the official plan says that the right of way for Walkley Road is supposed to be 30 meters. 37.5 meters wide, and it's 27.5.
Wow, that's
so as part of any application to rezone or redevelop a lot, they're going to say we need 5 meters from the front of your lot in case we widen the road. So So I don't think we can even put stairs in that 5-meter setback. I
Yeah,
think,
probably not in that case, but you'll still have some setbacks to deal with, I suspect, and this is one
Rear.
way to deal with it. So this is the way it works, guys. Yeah, you come in here, you walk up half a level, you're in this apartment and that apartment, you walk up another level, again, 2 more apartments and 2 more here. And if your site is big enough, you would have 3 stairs at the external stairs at the back, so you could double it. All right. And then here's one that was actually built in Ottawa and by a client of mine, and it has been just fantastic. There are,
Yeah, that's
are
the
a few,
one-
That's the one we saw.
That's the one on Gladstone, right?
that's right. That's the one on Gladstone. And this is, now we would make some changes to it. Both P Squared and I, if we were doing it again, these units here at grade would have their own ingress and egress. In other words, you'd have stairs going up here, stairs going up here, here, and here, because every time you have an apartment that has its own ingress and egress rather than a common area, your rents actually go up. So let's say Denise, Stuart, you guys were young again, and I was young again with my wife, and we had just 1 kid. You know, where would you rather rent? You know, a 15-story apartment building, or you know, a nice unit here with its own ingress and egress. So you maybe have a dog and a little kid, you could just run in and out of the building. All right. So we would change that, and then this would be the common area here. Couple other things. This is just this is a client of mine. You guys may know him or not. Dan Dore. He's well known in the area here, and this is one of the sites that he bought. This is on 10th Line Road. This is the main road here, 10th Line Road, and it has access to a residential road as well called Phoenix Crescent. And it has an old 5-plex on it that's really basically now a tear down, and they're going to replace it with a Quadran. This is just the pictures of the 5-plex that's on the site now that is eventually going to be torn down. That's pictures of the residential.
That's Phoenix. I have a property on that one. My
There you
neighbors
go.
are not so happy with this project.
Okay, that's not your property there, Mark, on the corner, is it?
Yeah, it's just behind where the photo was taken, but
So Mark,
the people are
this-
not happy what he's building.
Mark, this will actually raise your property values, not decrease it. Trust me on that. More density will help you, not hurt you. But we'll talk about that offline. All right. I'm not going to go through the original design. The original design was terrible, and I told them to fire the architect. You can see it here. This was the design. It was incredibly inefficient. They had some parking at grade. The advantage, you can see they didn't take advantage of their whole building envelope. They have this huge so-called amenity area. I mean, I said to Dan Dore and his business partner, Eric Reeson, I said, you know, you should fire your architect, and they did. A couple of things that might help you, Van, in your design is you are allowed to have parking on your site, really basically to the lot line. So I have built buildings where the building is this big, but the underground parking is actually bigger. So I might be inclined on this property at 1290 to go half a level down and put parking under the building and put it under the entire property of, you know, it's about 5,000 square feet. Now, the average amount of square footage that you need for a parking space is 350 square feet. Okay, so I mean, obviously, you only need 19 feet, by 9.5 feet. So that's really only 200 square feet. The extra 150 square feet you lose because of circulation space. So if you were to actually put a half, you don't want to go down a full level. That's too expensive. You go down half a level, you put parking there. You can go out, I think, right to the property line. You probably can put anywhere from 12 to maybe even as many as 14 vehicles underground if you wanted to. So in terms of parking, that's what I would do rather than having some kind of a, parking system, because those are pretty expensive. So that's what they're going to do on this property. They're going to go right to the property line or very close to it and put a half level down, lots of underground parking. This is a building I built back in the 80s. It's called the Royal Bank Pavilion. It's in Bell's Corners. And you can sort of see how the land goes up here. And the reason for that is I did exactly that. This is going back to the 80s, where we did not have enough parking to add this building to the site. And so I asked the city of Nepean if I could go out to the property line. So my underground garage was much, much bigger than the footprint of the building. And they said, oh, we've never been asked that before. I said, well, can we? And they looked at their bylaws and they said, I guess. So that's what we did, right? And this is, this is just a shot of what's going on in places like London, England, where land is so expensive that often the amount of development that you get below grade is more than what's above. It's like the iceberg, right? You got a little bit of the iceberg showing and then this huge thing underneath the water line. So using your underground, is important. And I thought I was going to show you that. So I want you guys to at least think about what you might do in terms of putting parking underground. A couple of other things that I think would be worthwhile showing to give you some more thoughts on what to do. I'll share my screen here. This is a project that one of my clients is doing in White Rock, BC. So that's a suburb of Vancouver. And so this is a building here. Maybe Denise and Stuart, you've seen this before. So this is commercial at grade. A second floor, probably going to be some kind of co-working space or maybe some workshops and artisan space, that sort of thing. And then these three floors here, floors 3, 4, and 5 are gigaplexed. And then the penthouse is for rich dudes to rent. So these are apartments here on 3, 4, and 5. And what each apartment looks like is this. So in terms of your micro suites and your gigaplex idea and all that cool stuff that we've talked about before, this is the corridor here. And you can see that this is a 2-bedroom apartment. There's a bedroom here and a bedroom here, a balcony here. But what makes this different is you come into the main apartment, which is, there's a little work area here, bathroom here, kitchen here, bedroom here, living room, entertainment area here, access to the terrace. But what makes this different is this blue thing. The second bedroom is a full lock-off micro suite. All right. And so I've been through this with, I think, Marc, you've seen this before too. So you would know how it works, but I think it's maybe new to Van and Maria. So the way it works in White Rock, BC is very, very simple. Somebody comes along, we'll say that, Marc, you come along and you rent this from Van and Maria. You rent this apartment for $2,500, and they give you, Van and Maria, who are your landlords, give you permission to rent the lock-off suite if you want to. And in fact, they require you to do that. So you pay $2,500 for this, and then Marc puts this on Airbnb. And Airbnb in Vancouver, because they have more moderate winters than we do, is off the charts in terms of demand. So people are getting $250 or $300 a day, believe it or not, for an Airbnb unit like this. So let's say it's $200 a day, and they rent it out for 20 days a month. That's $4,000 in income. So Marc, you would be able to live in this apartment. You'd pay Van and Maria $2,500, but then you'd put this on Airbnb, maybe make $4,000. So you're actually living in your own apartment in a very expensive part of Canada for a negative amount of money. But Van and Maria, from your point of view, what's really cool as a landlord is, again, you use that commercial concept of percentage rent, and you take a percentage of this. All right. So the lease that you would do with your tenant, in this case, Marc, is $2,500 a month, plus say 20% of whatever revenues he gets from this. So if he's getting $4,000, then that's $800 extra for you. So now you're making $3,300 and you're doing no work, right? Because Airbnb is a pain in the neck. So, but Marc, who's living here, is renting this. He's cleaning it. He's entertaining the guests, not you. And so, the landlord does no work, but makes even more money, which is pretty cool, right? So lots of my clients in the United States are adapting this concept. And what has really surprised me in some cases is that young people are doing it, but they're living in the walk-up suite and renting out this one because they make even more money.
How would that work under the landlord tenant board? That would fall under the LTB, wouldn't it?
So that's interesting, that you say that. I thought so too. And I haven't asked my lawyer, my attorney yet, Steve Sheppard, the question, but I think we could actually reverse it. One of my clients is trying that in Toronto. So it wasn't my idea, Denise. I wish I could claim it was, but it wasn't. What he is doing is he's renting this as a commercial Airbnb unit, because with Airbnb, you have to charge HST, right? You know that.
Mhm.
It's considered commercial. So what he said is, hey, Bruce, let's rent this with this being accessory residential. And then we wouldn't be subject to the RTA. I went, oh my God, I never thought of that. So I haven't asked Steve about that, but I think you're right. And what I like about this, Vanda Maria and Mark, is that Ottawa and Toronto are thinking, and maybe they already have, I don't know, I can't keep up with them. They're thinking about banning Airbnb. You guys know that, right?
Oh, yeah.
And this concept, they can't ban, because you're allowed to have people, like in my house, if Mark, are you a married person? I can't remember. Okay.
And he's got a kid too.
Beg pardon?
And he's got a kid too, a
How many
4-year-old.
kids have you got?
Just one.
How old?
My wife has two though. The
But-
kid and me.
He's 4, right, Mark?
Yeah, he's 4 years old. Yeah.
Oh, isn't
He's
that
gonna be
beautiful?
5. He's gonna be 5 in 2 weeks.
Oh my gosh, what is his first name?
Noah.
No, beautiful. I love kids. I got 5 of them and a bunch of little grandchildren. And the 2 of my daughters, I've got 3 daughters and 2 boys, and 2 of my daughters are pregnant now. So more kids coming this year. So it's really exciting for us. So so it's wonderful. But let's say your wife kicks you out. I could rent you. I have a little micro suite in my house. I could rent you that micro suite. There's nothing the city could do about that.
Yeah.
Right?
Do you
That's
remember? Do you remember the email I sent you? Do you think it'd be possible to rent the green part as a commercial unit that runs its own business, being an Airbnb on the left side?
So I'm not sure about that, because what we have to be careful about is being conforming with the bylaws. So what I am sure about is, I'm quite sure about, is that we could rent this as a commercial unit, because Airbnb is a commercial use, with accessory residential. And because the person who's running the Airbnb is living here and working here, the city can't object to it. Just the way that if your wife kicks you out, Mark, I can rent you, any space in my house, a room in my house, or my micro suite, whatever. So Airbnb will be legal in Ottawa and Toronto for somebody who lives in the house and rents out the space, or somebody who rents out the space and lives in the house. I think it works both ways. And I would be willing to fight that. But I don't think you can rent this out as a commercial space on the second floor, separate from, like that. At grade, I think you can. Let me just stop sharing this particular slide deck, and I'll see if I can show you another one.
So Bruce, the property is zoned to allow office buildings, like multi-level commercial space.
That's true. Yeah.
I think that the standards you build to for commercial space are different than residential. So you might be asking your architect to do some different things if you wanted to call the above grade space commercial as opposed to residential.
Well,
But
one of the things you have to be careful of on that. One of the things you have to be really careful on that, Van, is that I think you want to go in a direction on the second. For myself, I probably would do a 4-story building, not 5. Again, I'm not talking about maximization. I'm talking about optimization. I probably do 4 stories rather than 5, because I want a bigger footprint. I think it can be better than maybe what you showed. And you have to be careful, because if you talk to your architect about a change of use, office versus residential, you're going to get into incredibly complicated and costly fire separation.
Yep.
All right. So
Yep.
so my take on it is, if you're going to do some of that commercial residential thing, the work live thing, you do that at grade. And then on the 2nd, 3rd, and 4th floor, that's all residential, but it's residential with home-based businesses, which are legal. and home-based business. So that lock-off suite van could be used not just for Airbnb, but let's say I had my PSW license, my personal support worker license. I could take in an elder there, right? And you know, I don't have to tell you, it's like 5 or 6 or even more, $5,000 or $6,000 a month to live in one of these horrible retirement residences. If I'm a PSW, I could bring in an elderly lady and take care of her, and maybe I charge her $3,500 a month, right?
Mhm.
Did you build anything like this in Ottawa before? And what's the city when they permit it, how they look at it?
I wasn't sure what the question was, Maria.
So on top of Maria's question, which was, when you apply for the city permit, what do they consider that space to be? I have a question related to, if you look at the drawing again, you've got 2 doors going into the hallway and a lock off between them. And when the city's charging you development fees, do they see that as a 2-bedroom unit or
That
2
is a
1-bedroom
great
units?
question. Absolutely not. We have, because if they charge you a second development charge, we're all going to jump off a bridge together, holding hands. Absolutely not. So no, a lock-off suite, at least so far, they've only charged us 1 development charge.
Okay.
So it's considered a 2-bedroom unit because it is a connecting door, right?
Yep.
So we've only paid 1 DC development charge per 2-bedroom apartment. But if they were to start charging us a second DC, that would be a real problem.
So
Can you do 2 lock-off suites?
well, Maria's thinking that direction, the direction of the 2 lock-off suites. My thinking is right now that what you showed was a 2-bedroom essentially with the second. Could you do a 1-bedroom where the bedroom is a lock-off suite? So
Absolutely, absolutely.
Now you're looking at like 2 bachelors essentially.
Yeah, and in fact, one of the things that we have done in one of our properties, this one's in Belleville, Ontario, is we have 2 Airbnb units. I think they're both studio apartments, and they have a connecting door, so that you can have you can advertise them as, you know, kind of a studio on Airbnb, another studio on Airbnb, or, you know, 2 studios with a connecting door. It's like a hotel where you have the connecting door. So there's all kinds of really cool stuff that you can do. There's probably an infinite number of combinations.
So in your experience so far, if it's connecting door, they don't consider it a separate suite, even if it has full kitchen and bathroom?
So the ones that we're building in Belleville, the studio apartments are completely independent. So they're micro suites, and they're really quite beautiful, but they do have a connecting door. And the connecting door locks on both sides, right?
Yep, like in a hotel.
You know, but let's say, you know, Dawn and I, as young people, we go there with, you know, we wouldn't probably go there with 5 kids, but say we go with a couple of kids, the kids would be in this one and Dawn and I would be there, and the connecting door would be open, you know. But if it's separately rented, obviously, but that gives you tremendous flexibility. Those micro suites can be rented long-term rentals, extended stay rentals, short-term rentals, together, apart. I mean, you know, it's tremendous flexibility, and we got it through the building code van. So, you know, our architect in Belleville, they did a fantastic job, because, you know, the building code in Ontario is the same whether it's in Belleville or Ottawa, right? And we got it approved. So it's been a fantastic, it gives us tremendous flexibility. And you know, on that project in Belleville, I think we are breaking new records in terms of revenues. I think we're just like blowing out the doors in terms of revenue potential.
Did you try in Ottawa for the permitting this place?
So yeah, Maria made a point, Bruce. She said the code is the same all across the province, but building code services varies from city to city.
100%. So the answer to that question is, I'm not sure if we've tried it in Ottawa yet. I'd have to think about that, Maria. I'm not 100% sure. But I think that, you know, the city of Ottawa, I mean, I still run into trouble with them. There's no question about it. My little bunkie, you know, asking me $121,000 in studies. I'm not doing that, by the way. I'm applying for an exemption. I don't know if I'll get it, but I'm applying for an exemption. I'm not going to do it. I'm pissed. But I do think on the positive side is that you'll probably get a good hearing from the building and plans people. I do think so. I think you can get it done in Ottawa and certainly in Toronto now too. Okay.
To be honest, my experience with the building code services people is they're fine. It's getting through the zoning review when you submit plans that has been historically
100%.
challenging.
I completely agree with that. You know, you guys are, I'm sure, familiar with Bill 108.
Yep.
Bill 108 was passed by Ontario, which now allows you to have an in-home apartment and a coach house. But
Yep.
whether you're in Sarnia or in Toronto or Ottawa or Belleville, you go to the planning people, the zoning people, and they go, oh, no, you're not allowed to do that. And you go, yeah, we are. No. They don't even know their own goddamn codes. Excuse my language. I'm not feeling all that well, but I am pissed that they don't even know their own planning act. So in Belleville, they certainly do, because, they've heard from me. And in Ottawa, they certainly do, because again, they've heard from me. But I've got clients in Sarnia and Toronto and lots of other places in Ontario, Van. And I swear to God, it's amazing to me that a planner could call him or herself a planner and not know what the Planning Act does and does not allow. But they often will say, oh, no, you can't do that. It's a full rezoning. And then you trot out, I actually have Bill 108 on my computer. I trot that out, or my clients do, and they say, oh, I didn't know about that. It's terrible,
So
really.
this very question,
Sure.
that all Ontario allows coach houses an additional secondary dwelling. What about the size of secondary dwelling in Ontario? They're just supposed to be a little bit smaller than primary dwelling, but Ottawa is
Overly
a
restrictive.
little bit against that.
So in the city of Ottawa, I worked on, like I said, when we started this, I worked on that bylaw quite extensively. There are three metrics. It cannot be bigger, the coach house in the backyard cannot be bigger than 40% of your backyard, 40% of the developed area of the main house, or 841 square feet, whichever is the lesser. And for example, I'm building one in my backyard here where I live in Arlington Woods, and I got a huge backyard. I don't know, it's like 10,000 square feet or something like that. So 40% would be 4,000 square feet. Well, they're not going to let me build that. So my coach house in the backyard will be 841 square feet. But I think in the Fix It course, did I not, Denise and Stuart and Marc, did I not show what that coach house, gigaplex coach house looks like?
Yeah, you did on that one, but what Maria was saying is the secondary dwelling unit in the main house,
Yep.
Ottawa is making it more restrictive.
Yeah, you said about Bill 101, it's
108,
Ontario.
108,
108, it's Ontario one,
Yeah.
and we're going to Ottawa and saying, well, we're allowed, even if
Yeah,
you
yeah.
don't think so. The same thing should apply about the secondary dwellings, that Ontario says that it just should be smaller just by an inch.
So
Really?
the problem is maybe is the legislation from the province is directed to the municipalities, and they're directed to do their official plan and zoning bylaws in compliance with it, but they
That's
haven't.
correct.
No, I understand that, but I mean, Bruce
Well,
is
I know
saying-
we won't win if we try to build inside the city of Ottawa, we can't get past the city of Ottawa zoning people. They will stop us.
I would argue that it's, and I would urge you, Van and Maria, not to take no for an answer. I mean, we should be, all of us, I consider, because I'm a lot older than you guys, I consider you guys like my disciples. We have to fight for our rights as developers. We have to fight for our rights. Bill 108 is what's considered a PPS, a provincial policy statement. And
So are you suggesting that we all go down and park on Wellington Street and blow the car horns?
well, I have a truck.
After the guys leave. It's because we want to make a separate point.
But no, I think we should, hey, listen,
And push.
well, hold on a second. When I drafted up the first coach house bylaw in the city of Ottawa, and when they released it, they changed my draft. And they banned coach houses in the rural areas of Ottawa. And as you guys know, I called up Steve Willis, who's the top guy in the planning department, and some of the other guys, Alan McGillis, and I said, that's not going to wash. Then I called up the Ontario Federation of Agriculture long before these truckers got here. And I arranged for 500 farmers to show up and dump manure on City Hall. And I called Jim Watson. I called our mayor and said, Mayor, this is not fair. So Van, just so you understand, and Marc, the people who really need the extra income from coach houses are not rich, bureaucrats who make $300,000 a year between two people. It's the people in the rural area, and they weren't going to be allowed to have coach houses. I said, that's ridiculous. One of my best friends raised 9 kids, never made more than $36,000 as a farmer. And I said, he's the one who needs the extra $30,000 from the damn coach house, not rich dudes in Ottawa. So I'm not going to put up with this. And I said, you should change that, because you should go back to the original. And they backed down. Like it didn't take 2 weeks. So they did redo the bylaw. It was a draft, so they changed it. And now if you buy a lot anywhere in rural Ottawa, make sure it's 2 acres or more. Do not buy a 1 acre rural lot, 2 acres, because the minimum lot size for a coach house is 2 acres, which I was fine with. You want to make sure that you've got lots of room for well and septic and buildings, etc., which is fine. And I supported that. So if you're like my friend Kelvin, the farmer who's now 92, by the way, and still driving, he owns, I don't know, 400 acres. So he's well over the 2 acre minimum. But for people like us, if you buy a property, rural property anywhere in Ottawa, make sure it's 2 acres, not 1.99. They'll make you do a minor variance if it's 1.99. Make sure it's 2.01 acres or more. And then you get the house, the in-house apartment, the coach house, all kinds of good stuff. So that's what happens. So we have to stand up for ourselves, Van and Maria. We do. We can't let them push us around. And I'm very determined. I coach in the 9 years I've been doing it. I've coached 2,500 people in the States and in Canada. And I want them all to stand up and say, we have to have better cities. And I think we will have better cities.
Did Denise and Stuart tell you about our revolt against the proposed secondary dwelling unit bylaw change last spring?
No.
Yeah, so exactly what you said. They were proposing a rewrite of the SDU bylaw for cleanup and procedural purposes, but in the process they were going to sneak in some changes that would have even more reduced it compared to what it is now. And quite a few small landlords got together and managed to stop that from going forward. It went back to the planning committee. Actually, no, that wasn't planning committee. It got to council, right? Council sent it back because we couldn't stop it at the planning committee.
What were they trying to do?
They were trying to reduce the maximum size of an SDU and limit the number of bedrooms you could have in an SDU.
So how much?
Like 800 square feet or something, or was it smaller than that?
They wanted to align it with the coach house.
Yeah.
But make it actually a little bit smaller.
So that's what Maria was getting at.
Yeah.
I'm so glad you did that, Van. Ottawa owes you a debt of gratitude. Thank you for doing that.
Well, there's Van and there's 6 of them, Stuart, and there was 6 of you that actually spoke at the meeting.
Fabulous.
Yep.
Fabulous.
Well, first at the planning committee, and then when it went to council, we spoke as well. Yeah.
Wonderful. I'm so glad you did that. So I've got one more thing to share with you, then I've got to get going. I apologize, but I have another call coming up. So this is one of the buildings that I bought in Belleville, Ontario. It's a 3-story building. It's very, very old, 150 years old. And it had some retail here, I think some office space here, and then some residential here. It was a very beautiful building back in its day. This is, I guess, the 1970s. And this is what we're doing now. We're renovating it top to bottom, pulling off the ugly metal cladding and returning it to its original brick veneer. But the reason I wanted to show you this particular building, because I do think it's relevant to what you're doing. This was a weird sticking out part of the building. So the building is a big square block, but at the back there was this long sticking out piece, which you can see here. This is what it looked like when we bought it. The former owners did not treat this building very well, and we bought it through a power of sale. So we bought it for almost no money, but it's quite the interesting place. So everybody told us to tear this thing down. It was, I think it was the old banquet hall for the restaurant that was there. And I said, no, I'm not tearing anything down. And then what we did was we put our team in there and we did demolition. And once we had done the demolition of this kind of weird sticking out piece, this is what we found. This is actually, the building was built 150 years ago. It's celebrating its 150th anniversary this year, 2022. And it has 100-foot long original growth timber in it. Stone walls are 150 years of age, brick walls. Here, it's an absolutely beautiful space. It's the old stables.
Gorgeous.
It's the old stables. And so what we're doing with it, and I'll just show you this plan. So, sorry. So this is what it looked like when we bought it. This is what it looked like after demolition. And this is what we're doing with it. And I wanted to show you this because it might spark some ideas on your part. So this is then what I'm showing here, where my cursor is. This is the long sticking out piece at the back. There's an alleyway over here on the right-hand side, and the main street is well over here. So this is the old banquet hall, which is of course the old stables. And there is an old patio here that literally we had to, it's like an archaeological, excavation. We had to excavate that, and we found that this was an old patio, which really was where you would leave your horses if you were just coming for an hour. You'd leave them here outside. And if you were coming overnight, you would, obviously stable your horses inside. So what we're going to do is we've excavated the old patio. So you come in here, this is your patio, double doors here. You've got a living room, a kitchen here. You've got a good size bedroom here. But what I wanted to show you is we have another entrance over here to this weird sticking out piece. And this is the foyer for what we call an artisan space. And so this could be, let's say I was a registered massage therapist. I could do my registered massage therapy practice here, my physiotherapy practice here, run my legal practice here, my coaching practice, whatever, and live here. So it's a live work condition. And the demand for this, guys, is off the charts. I mean, I can't tell you, when I put up one of these live work conditions, I usually get 10, 12, sometimes 20 applications. People really, really want this kind of space. I mean, I'll stop sharing. The days of, getting up in the morning, you've heard me say this before, some of you, in a suburb of Toronto, getting in your Tesla, driving for an hour and a half to downtown Toronto, going up to the 30th floor of an office tower with bad fluorescent lighting, no air, bad air, just horrible conditions, working for 10 hours, coming back down, getting in your Tesla, going back, spending 3 hours a day in the commute. That's ending. And you probably, and this is the last thing I'll say, because I'm a few minutes late for another call, but you guys have probably seen that the labor force participation rate in the States and in Canada is shrinking. They're showing that millions of people are leaving the workforce. I think that's actually wrong. I think what's happening is millions of people are leaving JOBs. You know what JOB stands for, right? Journey of the Broke. So they're leaving their jobs and they're starting gigs, right? They're starting side hustles. So one of the things I wanted you to at least think about for your new building at 1290 is some of these concepts. And what I'd like you, the group, to do is just do some sketching. Hand sketching is fine. What does the ground floor look like? Second, third, fourth, what are the uses? And from that, what we can do together, if you want some help from me, is we can do a spreadsheet together and we can look at what the ROI is likely to be, the cap rate. And I suspect if you adopt some of the stuff that I'm talking about, your cap rate will be off the charts. Does that help? Was that helpful, Denise?
Oh, I really appreciate this, because I knew you're very innovative in a lot of stuff, and we've been talking about you with everybody too, and I thought this would be great for everybody to kind of have a chat with you and just kind of listen to some of your ideas.
All right, so do some sketching, okay, of what you think the building might look like and what the uses are, and the highest and best use, maybe incorporating some of these things. What I'll do is I'll upload this video to YouTube, send it to you, and I'll send you that 18-minute video that Pierre Polyev did. So exactly what you were doing, Van, that's what he's saying, that we have to stand up to these bureaucrats, otherwise Canada is sunk. All right, guys, I'll see you
Thank you very
later.
much for
Thank
your
you so
time.
much,
Thanks,
Bruce.
It was really nice to meet you guys.
You too.
Take care. Have a great day.
Thank you.